there are four basic schools of psychotherapy. Cognitive, meaning changing your thinking. Affective, aiming at changing the emotions. Behavioral, which have to do with behavioral modifications. And then, finally, bodily therapies, about which I don't know anything. I do mostly cognitive and affective. Now, psychoanalytic model is a method of cognitive therapy that focuses on the past and how it has formed and shaped you. In the hands of a good, solid therapist, imagotherapy can be very effective as a method. Any therapy can be effective in the hands of a good practitioner. The problem out there with counseling and all that is that most of it isn't really very good. I know I've supervised many people who've become licensed. I want you to know I am not impressed overall. I am not impressed with it. It's very hard to find good therapists. I have a very short list. Because a lot of counseling goes nowhere. And it misses what is needed. So I've seen, back in the 80s and 90s when imagotherapy first came out, of course it's the answer to everything in psychotherapy, just like emotion and focus therapy, EFT right now, is everything. But the problem is there is nothing new really under the sun, and a lot of it has to do with the practitioner and who does it. So, is imagotherapy good? It can be. It can be useful. I know that at some point you have to deal with your past. If your therapist only keeps you living in the past, or your mentor, that's not useful. But if you use that as a background to understand your here and now functioning, that can be useful. All right? So these are the three things you look for in a healthy relationship. And I might add, this is even the case with friendships. A lot of people I know, men and women both, get very disappointed in friends. They choose their friends, not wisely, and they get hurt. They feel as though they do all the giving, and not much comes back to them. And if you check out these things, these are predictors. I'm going to go over some particular things now that have to do with reading people. All right. One, in dealing with somebody, what is the talk to listen ratio? This is a real key. I'm thinking of a man that I could get together with tomorrow night for dinner. And I'm going to maybe say 5 or 6 words. He's going to do all the talking. And I'm going to do all the listening. And so it's not evenly shared. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So talking and listening ratio is a key thing. Normally, if you have somebody who just blabs and blabs and blabs and blabs and blabs and blabs one at a time, you're dealing with somebody who has poor empathy skills. Because they're not recognizing how you're going to feel as I talk. One of the things I'd like all of us to be aware of is as we speak to another, always being mindful of what feelings are going on in the other person. Are you really interested in my last camping trip? Every detail and everything we did on that camping trip? You're probably not. And for me to tell you all of that shows that I'm not thinking about you, I'm only focusing on me. So talk to listen ratio is very important. Secondly, and I just want to, this is kind of a little off-color term, people can be energy sucks.
That's a bad.
Is the person an energy suck to deal with? There are people that I meet with, and as a professional therapist, I'll look at my book and I'll say, uh-oh, so-and-so's coming in. It's gonna be a long 50 minutes because that person is gonna drain you. They're an energy taker, not giver. There are people you meet that fill you with energy, that fill you with joy and a sense of happiness. And then there are the other types that are just time sucks and energy sucks. Am I clear to everybody what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hope that you'll say of the talks I've given today that I've inspired you a little bit, motivated you a little bit, given you some energy. Because a lot of times, presentations can just be boring, out of touch, and our time sucks. It's just that simple. Yes?
So how do you deal with the person who's the energies suck? The person who just, alright, and you have to deal with them in your life. You know, co-worker, whatever. I have one person in my life that's just like, yeah, please stop. And I have to deal with her on a daily or almost daily basis, and it's just like I walk away from conversations with her like the Affleck duck. Sometimes just blah, you know, as I walk out because she's just so ridiculous.
Well, here's a question that you have to answer, and only you can answer. If I carefront her about it, that you're telling me all sorts of things that I'm not interested in, how is she going to feel? If I don't, I may want to just see that as a liability of the job and avoid the person rather than getting into it. We are always going to be stuck with certain people in our lives that we wish weren't there. That's just part of the human experience. Yes?
I mean, sometimes too, nobody's gonna like fit every perfect mold.
That's right.
You know, sometimes there's people with crappy habits, but they're good or they've always been loyal to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think it's very good that you are pointing out that these are not categories, that are neat and clean. It all kind of mixes together. There may be somebody who is kind of a time suck and talks too much, but I find enough worth and value in a relationship that I may want to overlook that. This is where you have to make a discernment for yourself.
Can a person go in and out of these
Yes?
based on their emotional state?
Yes. They can. They can. It isn't fixed. Blabaholics aren't always blabaholics. Yes.
Is it okay to either dump or avoid these people, if at all possible, just to make my life easier and not have to?
You're not going to have any friends left.
Just not have to go there. I mean, if they're an energy or an energy sucker, and I don't really need to be around them, can I just not go there and seek out positive people?
Jesus said that you are to love others as you love yourself. There are toxic people out there that I recommend you avoid, that are not good for you. Now, maybe you have a particular mission that you want to share the gospel with that person, or you want to do the highest good for them, as Jesus commands. That's what loving another is all about. It's not an emotional thing. It's a choice. It's a behavior. To love another person is to do the highest good for another. But there are many people, Mike, that would like to be my friend and like to be close to me, that I don't push the relationship very hard. Because there's nothing in it for me. There's nothing really that I can do for that person. And all I'm doing is loving self, which Jesus asked me to do. So I think it's perfectly fine to make decisions about who you're going to be with and who you're not going to be with.
Mm-hmm.
Now in therapy, they're paying. They're coming.
Sure.
So I got to listen to it. But many of these people, would they be friends of mine outside of the therapy room? No way. I wouldn't want to deal with them. However, it's not my place to say anything.
And just as an example, I've got like, say, 5 friends from high school. And one of the five is just an energy suck now. And the other 4 all agree that he makes our life miserable when he's around us. And we are all thankful that, let's say this year he wasn't there. We had such a much better time. And I don't really care if he comes back. Kind of hoping he doesn't, because we've given it the old college try for many years to represent ourselves in a Christian type of format. And we've all just basically given up and would like to wipe our hands of him, because he is just bad news.
Someone in here respond to Mike. What can they do as a group with that other person?
I could certainly talk to him. I mean, if he's that old of a friend, maybe it's worth trying to salvage it. And,
Yeah, we have for 5 years. So 5 years have gone by with trying that, so now it's
oh, so
year
you
6.
tried it, okay.
Oh,
Well, yeah, it's probably, maybe it's worth one more round.
And we went 2 more rounds already. So
Well,
I'm just helping you use.
I know.
See, this is not an easy question. The 4 of you maybe need to sit down together
We have.
and talk about what you want to do going forward. And I think you could make a case for excluding him from the group. Not because he's a bad person, but because the 4 of you are not benefiting from his presence.
And our families are adversely affected because of his presence. So we've gone, I like hearing this, because we did literally have a phone conversation about a certain person.
It sounds to me like it's toxic, like what Jeff says. It's a
Yeah, I'd
toxic.
say
safe
to the
thing
point
to
where
get out
it's
of.
toxic and. Okay, thank you.
Well, see, there is a time to
I will get
level.
$10 for the therapist.
No, you
session.
don't. No, you don't.
It's 20.
No, you don't.
They don't even open the door for less than 50.
You
As
can,
friends.
you can attempt to change others' behavior, but that's always dangerous. Now, for example, let's say a husband and wife have terrible conflicts. The way, if I'm seeing the wife and not the husband, I can help the wife say and do certain things with the husband that are going to actually change how he responds to her. It all goes back to what most of you had in college, is the little rat and the maze, the idea of stimuli and response. You change the response and the stimuli is effective. So, for example, if I want my partner to be different, I need to be different. Gandhi's words are true. I need to be the change that I want to see.
So
The trick is-
in parenting, you need to change if you want your kids to change.
Well, that's,
Oftentimes, I can't explain to you, and this is another weekend we could have, how poor parents handle kids. Mark this down. On the web, you can go to activeparenting.com.